Hello, book connectors. Welcome back to the Book Connection. I am your host, Blue Eyed Black Devil, and I'm here with what I like to call a celebrity hodgepodge of about the author. I know you all know that I am fond of reading biographies, memoirs, whatever it is you choose to call them. So this time I uh, I came up with a list of books that I have read by non writers. Well, shall I say they did write, so that wouldn't be fair. But they don't write novels and they don't do books. That's not really their claim to fame. I have quite a few in this video that I want to discuss books I've read. A lot of people don't care to read this genre books. They feel like either the person doing the storytelling is not giving us all the info or they're giving too much. And so if you're one of those people who don't really care for books like this, just remember to just take whatever you read with a grain of salt. And one of the things that helped me decide whether I believe what it said depends on the number of times I've heard or read or seen certain documentaries or videos, and they keep pinpointing and coming up with some of the same stories about something. Then pretty much it all still could be a lie at the end of the day, but if this is all I have to go by, this is what I say. So, or this is what I think anyway. So let's just see how well. I just wanted to try my hand at a celebrity hodgepodge of about the authors. Let's go. So as you can see on the screen, the first one up is Matriarch by Tina Knowles, mother of Beyonce Knowles. And what I like most, like 99.99% about this book is it is truly about Tina Knowles. Yes, Beyonce, Solange, and Matthew are featured because they are a part of her life. But sometimes when I read stories about people related to or people who have known and grown up with people, it'll start off a little bit about them to get you into the book, but then you want to go on and tell all about the said entertainer. Tina does not do that at all. And because she didn't do it, the things that she said that we've heard, seen, or read about, Jay-Z, Beyonce, whatever, it's stuff that has already been put out there. So it's not like she was telling any secrets or anything. And I love a person who can respect themselves enough to respect others, even if you did give birth to them. But overall, I think this book was a great read, or at least it was for me. Okay, so next up we have I'll Take You There, Mavis Staples, The Staples Singers, and The March Up Freedom's Highway. Okay, so I read this book, I guess it was about 6 or 7 years ago. I did go back and hit and touch on things, but according to my memory, then I went back and checked the book. I was right. I really was not a big Staple Singers fan, but I respect them. I do. When you talk about gospel music or gospel singing groups back then, they were, and deservedly so, right up there in the top 5 gospel groups, along with the Soul Stirrers and, I don't know, the drinker singers and the caravans, and you just name it, they were there, out of Chicago. But now, what did I really know or learn from this book that I hadn't known before? I guess the first thing that I learned is that they had a younger sister who she was born in 1952. And until she was born, Mavis was the baby in the family. Mavis was born in 1939, and her youngest, or their youngest sibling, which was a girl, a sister, was born in 1952. So Mavis was like 12 or 13 years older than the youngest child. That was some of my doings. I did stuff like that. But, with that big age gap between children. But anyway, I didn't know that they had a younger sister. And I certainly didn't know that her sister's name, I don't know if I mentioned this a while ago, but her sister's name, Mavis, they let Mavis name the baby because they were trying to keep her from being so upset because she was the baby for such a long time. So Mavis named her youngest sister Cynthia. Her name was Cynthia Marie Staples. And she was born in April 1952. Well, October 1973, she chose to leave the world behind. Now, it shocked pretty much the whole family, but after it was over, Mavis said she knew that her sister had been battling depression. Matter of fact, they all knew she had been hospitalized for it once in her life. But, sometimes, like when they would be in between shows and they were able to go home, Cynthia would go to stay with Mavis for 3 or 4 days, and Mavis would do things to lighten the load or her load and stuff. But that was sad. But even more shocking than that, what really made me go, really? Who'd have thunk it? Did anybody know that Mavis dated and was proposed to twice by Bob Dylan? She was engaged and dated Bob Dylan. I believe that was the one. I don't know if I would forget that even if I came down with Alzheimer's, and that's not meant to be funny. I just didn't know it. I didn't see it coming. And I imagine some of why I didn't know it had to do with me not really being a big fan of either one of them. I respect their work, but was I a fan of their music? Not so much. But when you look at the times they were coming up in the late 50s through the 70s, we know that civil rights and all that entailed, it was like in its heyday. But yet and still, they found time to get to know each other, so much so that Bob wanted to marry her. That's what I walked away with from reading this book. Overall, I think it's a rainy day read. It'll be one of these books you might pick up when, it may be cold or cloudy or rainy, and you just you're in between finding something to watch on television or reading a book. Read this one, it'll pacify you. Okay, so up next is Whoopi Goldberg's memoir, Bits and Pieces. Now, most of us know that Whoopi is one of a very select, small group who owns or she herself is an EGOT. That means that she has at least one of all of the highest honors that can be bestowed upon a person in Hollywood. She has an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. Now, this is, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think this is her first memoir, but it is the only one that I've read. Now, I'm not really big on movies. I know most of what I know from her from watching The View. I have watched The View ever since it premiered way back in 1997. She has been the moderator of The View for like the last 18, maybe 19 years, somewhere along in there. But back to the memoir. I found it to be very forthcoming. She talks a lot. My mother, my brother, and me. Not only did she adore them, she knew that they loved and adored her. She was very close with both of them. And she just goes on to talk about growing up. She makes her childhood sound so magical and I can't put into words. She just talks about how her mom, as usual, you know how it is when you're a single parent, you make something out of nothing, although you don't feel like it's a big deal at the time. But her children, Whoopi and her brother, were very thankful to their mom because they knew she worked hard and she worked more than one job a lot of times. And her brother was like, I think he was 7 years older than Whoopi, but never once did he complain about having to babysit his sister when their mother was working. Whatever they did, he always brought his sister with him. And sometimes his friends would be like, man, why you have her? Because she's my sister. My mom's at work. What? So they just always got along. Now, I didn't realize that her mother had some bouts with mental illness. She ended up having to be placed in a mental facility for some time. Whoopi didn't give blocks of time. She didn't say whether it was a week, a month, a year, or what. I don't believe it was a year. But the point is, she came home and found her mom trying to put her head in the oven. And she was like, Mom, she had gone downstairs to a neighbor's apartment and got the neighbor to come up. They called 911, got to the hospital, but they, meaning Whoopi and her brother, did not see their mom for some time. Now, when you're a child, 3 days is a long time. So I don't know how long she was gone, but she wasn't one to talk about her past. Whoopi would ask her all types of questions. And most of the time, her mother would be like, well, is that what you believe? Is that what you think? Well, whatever you believe is how you'll govern yourself for the rest of your life. And don't let anyone tell you that you're wrong for feeling the way you do. You live with you day in and day out. But Mom, what? Hey, that's it. That's all. All right. And then so obviously it hurt her bad when she got the call from her brother that their mother had passed away. And so Whoopi was not even in the country when it happened. But she got on the plane or whatever. Her brother was like, just take your time. You know, she's on life support. So, but you can take your time getting here. When you get here, we'll say our final goodbyes, and that's what they did. Now, at some point, Whoopi goes back to work or whatever. Then it dawned on her, oh gosh, I have to go clean out the house or clean out the apartment, wherever her mother was living at the time she passed away. Which I think she passed away since I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Since Whoopi has been on The View, I think she was a moderator when her mother passed away. So her brother was like, don't worry about it. I got this. You just go on. You go on. I'll take care of things here. So she did. When she did go back to where her mother was living, she still had a key. She went in and she found that her brother had not done one thing he said he was going to do. So, in essence, she still was the one that packed her mother up and finalized everything. And she wasn't mad. She knew then he probably had attempted to go do something. But it was just too much for him. He just couldn't do it. Whoopi also talked about her daughter having her first child at age 14. It was a very deliberate action on her daughter's part. She talked to Whoopi and told her that she wanted a child. A lot of it, Whoopi says, was because she wasn't always there. She was out earning a living for them. But, as a child, you still want your mom if she's not around as much as you want her to be. So there was nothing Whoopi could say to change her mind or to convince her, look, you're a baby yourself. 14 is incredibly young. But her daughter, Alex, did have her first child. I don't know if she was 14 when she had the baby, but I know she was 14 when she got pregnant. And, okay, so her mother passes. Now, by the time Whoopi writes and releases this book, her brother had passed away as well. And I think, now she's always, or appeared to be anyway, from what I can remember and see of her on The View, she's always been close to her daughter. And, they may have disagreements, but don't we all? And I hate it when people, I don't care who the celebrity is, just because they have an argument or strongly disagree with a family member, it does not mean that they don't love or like each other. And so that was the case with Miss Whoopi Goldberg. And she ended the book. This is what I think I remember most about this book. Yes, she has the fame. Yes, she has some money, although I don't think it's as much money as we, the people watching her. I don't think it's as much as whatever we thought it would be, because she said, she can't afford to retire now. But from the outside looking in, she has all of this prestige. And, but she does have way more than I'll ever have. But it's not enough. And I know a lot of it is because she employs a lot of people. If she didn't employ people, she probably could have retired, but she likes what she does. She's in a place now in her life, a career to where if she wants to take off, she can, and it wouldn't affect the bank for some time. But she says with all of this, the one thing that you always want is the love of your family members, or whoever it is you're closest to, you grew up with, you bonded with. Don't take them for granted, because they could literally be here today and gone tomorrow. Whatever you do, stay close, forget the BS, and at the end of the day, family is really all you have, or at least that's how she feels. So that is what I walked away with most, is for Whoopi, although she appears to be a loner? Uh-oh. She's that way because she knows that her family anchors her. Would I read this book or recommend others read it? Yes. So now on to Gladys Knight. Between each line of pain and glory. I read this book right about the time I read the Staple Singers book. But I'm a bigger fan of Gladys Knight or Gladys Knight and the Pips than I am the Staple Singers. But I really didn't know much about Gladys or, her family because her brother, Bubba Knight, was one of the Pips. So it was Gladys, her brother Bubba, I believe one of their cousins was also a Pip. But, she grew up singing in the choir, all of this stuff. They got their big break on some show called the Ted White or Ted. Well, maybe I should say, I can't remember the name of it. I just remember his name was Ted. But what did I walk away from with after reading this book? And I don't think I knew that her parents eventually divorced. Her father left. I didn't know that she grew up, or at least her early education was in a Catholic school. But so was Whoopi Goldberg's. That was fascinating to me, that being from the Bible Belt, Gladys Knight I'm speaking of now, she's from Atlanta, Georgia, but her early education, I don't know if she graduated from a Catholic school, but that's definitely where she started. And that was the schooling that, like I just said, Whoopi Goldberg had. Didn't really surprise me much coming from Whoopi, but Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, we're the Bible Belt. And so, anyway, yes, she went to Catholic school. Her parents eventually divorced. Her mother never really understood why. He just left one day. And they started out separating. But as time moved on, he decided he didn't want to go back, her father, that is. So they were divorced. Gladys had been married or has been married, 3, maybe 4 times. I know that her high school sweetheart was her first marriage, and he was the father of her oldest 2 children. She has a son and a daughter by him. And then the first husband has passed away, and unfortunately, so has her oldest son. He just went to sleep one day and didn't wake up. As for her ex-husband, he got hooked on substances and never could come away from it or get away from that. So that's what took him out. And then she has a 3rd child, Shanga, who is still living, from, I think, his father was her I think he was her 3rd marriage. I think that's how it went. But yes, Gladys, oh yeah, and this is something else. I think I vaguely remember hearing or reading something about this, but Gladys, her addiction wasn't alcohol or drugs. Hers was gambling. And her daughter almost wasn't able to graduate from college because Gladys had gambled away what she had set aside for her daughter. But she eventually went to Gamblers Anonymous. And if she gambles now, she hasn't said so. I'm inclined to believe that she no longer does. Although my sister went to see her at a casino. She was performing, and my sister went to see her. And she just talked about, my sister, that is, talked about what a great show Gladys gave. She eventually went solo and still is solo. But yes, would I read this book again? I unfortunately would read it again, but it would be on the bookshelf next to the Staple Singers because I just it's just not one that I would just readily pick up today. So now let's wrap it up with Mr. First Name Charlie, last name Wilson himself, written by who? Well, Charlie Wilson, of course. Now, this memoir or autobiography, however you choose to refer to it, this book was, I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. It was he seems to be a playful, just kind of taking it easy type of man all the way through. Although he did he went through some things. He grew up, well, put it this way, he was born into a two-parent home. His father was a minister and his mother was the music coordinator for his district or several counties or something like that for the church that his father pastored. He has an older brother or had an older brother and an older sister. Then there's Charlie, and then they have a younger brother, Robert. Unfortunately, both his older brother, Ronnie, and his younger brother, Robert, are deceased now. But the three boys, Ronnie, Charles, and Robert, back in the day, they formed a group and they became famous under the name the Gap Band. They are from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Now, according to Charlie, his childhood, for the most part, was pretty good up until his father walked away from the marriage. And later on, it was rumored that the woman he left his wife and children for was pregnant by him. Now, that was always said. I don't know if it ever really was true or they didn't mention anything about that. But yeah, Charlie was always, or so he seemed to be, like the happy-go-lucky, the one that was very mischievous. He was always into stuff, knowing very well he was not supposed to do it, all the way through. Now, for some unknown reason, his older brother, Ronnie, used to get his kicks, literally, by punching Charlie. He'd always do it when the parents weren't around. And if he tried to say something, he would always try to make it sound like Charlie was, over-exaggerating. It didn't happen, blah, blah, blah. But they all were musically gifted. I didn't realize that they all played music instruments. Growing up, his older brother Ronnie, as well as his sister Loretta, they would all lead choirs and have solos and all of that stuff growing up. But when they turned 12, they both stepped down from that. But, Charlie was coming up and he gladly, that's just where it was. They were not allowed to listen to secular music in the house. They always had to sneak and hear it outside of the house. He's right as he starts to tell his story. He talks about how Stevie Wonder's song, Fingertips, was all over the radio when he was first coming as a child and stuff. And his mother knew that they liked music. It's just that they were forbidden to listen to anything other than gospel in the house. So this goes on. So they go to Charlie. By the time he gets to high school, he starts performing, sneaking into clubs and all that they do when they're coming up. underage and stuff. They would sneak into clubs. And by this time, his father is no longer at the house. And Charlie, sometimes he would act out. And he would have to, she would call his dad. One time she made him go live with his dad. And Charlie did everything under the sun to get sent back to his mother, which he eventually did. But yeah, they talked about how the principal at the school, his high school, used to go out at nights and he might have a drink or two at the bar. Charlie is already not supposed to be in there because he was underage, and sometimes it would be on school nights. But I can't remember what the principal's name was, but his nickname around the neighborhood was Pookie. Charlie got to school one day, and he was going down the hall. He seen the principal. He's like, "Hey, Pookie, they say you need to come settle your tab at the bar." Pookie! I'm like... Oh gosh, he just seemed to always do stuff. He finally talked someone into letting them drive their brother's Rolls Royce. And the guy gave him the keys and he told him, "You stay on the south side." And needless to say, he was on the wrong side of town. The car broke down. He had to call and tell them where he was so that they could come and get the car at him. He always seemed to be doing little stuff like that. He just seems to barely skirt the law. But along with all of that, he did eventually start to use drugs. And when he did that, he was on drugs for quite some time. He was homeless, he had daughters at this time that he wasn't really in their lives because he was so far out there in his life. And he just talked about how he would sleep up under cars, well, not up under cars, but maybe up under trucks. He'd make beds out of bricks, just whatever. He'd eat wherever he could and whatever he had to do to live. But thankfully, at some point, he ended up going to rehab. And the lady who took his case saw something in him that he didn't see in himself. And when he completed the rehab, he didn't want to leave. And she was like, "Why? You're done here?" And he was like, "Because I have nowhere to go." And I seen him talk about this one time on some show on YouTube. And they're like, "Well, why didn't you just go back to your mom's?" And he was like, you don't take that type of stuff to your mom. I knew I was going to have to be clean I didn't want to take that to my mom. I'm sure she heard about it. She couldn't do anything. So I just, didn't take that there. And I commend him for that. But anyway, the lady went and rented a place. And she told him, you got 30 days. Now, in these 30 days, you need to get you a job. So when it's time to pay the rent, you can do so. So she helped him. She bought clothes. She bought dishes. She basically, it's like she shopped for herself. But, it was for him. So at the end of the 30 days, he was still working. He had gotten a job. He was doing okay. He just was slowly coming back, trying to get back into the music and things, but he was having trouble getting anyone to call him back and all that stuff. But the lady stayed with him. And at some point, Charlie proposed to her. And she said yes, and they have been married, I think, what? Oh, I won't even say, but we're in the double digits now. They've been married that entire while. And he just loves her for seeing something in him that he couldn't see for himself. And a lot of people would have just, okay, you went to rehab, you're done. I think that lady ended up having to quit that job so that it wouldn't, there wouldn't be any type of impropriety or insubordination going on. So she quit, but she was, I don't know if she still does it, but she was a counselor. I can't remember her name, but I know that she was from Sweden, and they have lived happily ever since then. So that wraps up his story. I'm glad he came to a good end. Well, I guess I need to say he was put in touch with people like R. Kelly. Sick as R. Kelly is, you can't deny, if you like his music, that he was truly a gifted person. But when he got with R. Kelly produced an album. And that was it. The name of that album, I believe, is Charlie Wilson. And that's one of the first lines in one of those songs. Hello, my name is, what is it? Get it right. Hello, first name Charlie, last name Wilson. And so it just kind of introduced us all over again. And when he released that album, it blew up. It blew up, and I believe if Charlie isn't touring now, it is by choice. Because he had that album, There Goes My Baby, that was a big hit. He just released a single back late last year. He did a single with KC from the group Jodeci and Babyface. And I love it. It sounds so good. So it's glad to see that, yeah, life gets in the way. We have heartaches and hardships, breakups and makeups. I think that he has a relationship with his children now that he didn't have before. And all of that is good. So now I am through with his book. I know at the beginning I said this was a video hodgepodge of celebrity authors, but really and truly, well, I guess it was. But it seems like I didn't really talk that much about the authors. But yeah, I guess I can still call it that. Look, you all, I have enjoyed putting this video together. It was fun. It's way past due, I know. But it's here now, and it will be up no later than tomorrow, which for me will be Tuesday, June 9th. And so, in the meantime, subscribers, thank you for being subscribed. Visitors, thank you for visiting the channel. Feel free to join us. And everyone, please do not forget to like, share, comment respectfully, and by all means, check to make sure that you are still subscribed. And then you need to make sure your notification bells are not only turned on, but set to all. So you'll know every time YouTube decides to release a video. And until another video comes along, book connectors, remember this. As long as there are books around, there is always something to read. And until we read again, book connectors, be safe out there, enjoy your work week, and God bless. Bye for now.